Hello, everyone. This is Giulia Castelli, your host of Show Me Your Diamond podcast and YouTube channel. I hunt for real diamonds in the world, but I also hunt and uncover inner diamonds in people. And today, my diamond is Dr. Jonathan McDowell. He's an astrophysicist, and we have never had someone like him on our show. And I would let him tell us who is an astrophysicist and what does an astrophysicist do. It's so fascinating.
Right. Well, an astrophysicist is a kind of astronomer. We study the universe. We look at the stars and galaxies and black holes. And what makes you an astrophysicist and not just an astronomer is that you don't just go, oh, look, there's a pretty thing in the sky. You try and figure out, how does it work? And one of the reasons that we do this is because the way the universe works, we're part of the universe. We're so deeply connected to the universe. And so understanding how the universe works tells us how we work, how the Earth works. One of the great discoveries of astrophysics about 100 years ago was that we are literally made of stardust. Every atom in your body has been the same atom throughout the history of the Earth, and it was forged in a star in nuclear reactions. And so by studying the nuclear reactions in stars, we actually find out why, for example, iron is common and gold is rare. You know, that's everyday features of the world around us come from astrophysics, come from how the stars burn and then blow up and scatter their ashes in the sky, and the Earth and the other planets form from those ashes. And so we bear the imprints of that cosmic phenomena. And so that's why I'm fascinated by it, and so that's what I try and do. And more specifically, I hunt for black holes, and I also try and understand. I have a second life of being excited about space exploration and satellites and rockets, but I've kind of moved from that into worrying about the environmental impact that those satellites and rockets are having on outer space and on the Earth. And so those are sort of my two threads that I do in my professional career.
Wow. I mean, where do I even start? This is fascinating. This is not your usual, what do you do? I'm a lawyer or I'm a banker. Here you are. I'm an astrophysicist. Is it the same thing, astronomer and astrophysicist?
These days, it pretty much is. Back in the 1890s, there was a big fight that there were people who were like the old style astronomers who just wanted to know how bright the stars are, or let's find a new moon of Saturn or something like that. And the astrophysicists came along and muscled in on their turf and went, no, we want to study what the elements are in the stars and what the physics is that's happening. That's the physics part of astrophysics. What are the rules of how the stars work? But basically they won that fight, and everyone's an astrophysicist now professionally. And so, but we also now, I at least, I'm proud also of the label of astronomer, because one way of thinking about it is astronomy, pure astronomy, is the history and geography of the universe. As an astronomer, I know there's this star over there and it's called Betelgeuse, and there's this galaxy over there, it's called Andromeda, and here's how far away they are and things like that. As an astrophysicist, I'm not interested in Betelgeuse or Andromeda. I'm interested in F-type stars and spiral galaxies as a class of object, as a species, if you like. And I study the species and how the species works. And as an astronomer, I care about the individual things. Oh, that star's my friend. I know it well. And so I love both. I love both the history and geography aspect, and I love the astrophysics, the rules of the game aspect. How does it all work? And so I think the best science comes out of merging those two to understand our place in the universe, where we come from, where we're going.
Wow, I love that. So I hunt for diamonds and inner diamonds, and you hunt for black holes. And what was the second thing you're hunting for or interested? That was
Well,
quite.
I'm hunting for a way to use outer space sustainably,
Oh,
in an environmentally responsible way. So I'm the guy who, when the corporations, we're in a new era in outer space now, where instead of government space agencies like NASA and the Russian Space Agency and so forth, we now have corporations like SpaceX and like Planet Labs that are launching rockets, launching satellites, and the level of activity is huge, and it's not very highly regulated. And the companies are quite secretive. And so my role is to say, yes, this company said in their press release that this is what they're doing. But actually, from looking at the orbits of the satellites, I can say that what they're actually doing is this. And so I'm the sort of open source reality, independent reality check on what's going on and raising the alarm about, well, the traffic's getting really busy up there. We might be affecting the upper atmosphere. There might be a risk of space debris falling on your head. What are we going to do about this?
this is fascinating, and it's also very relevant to where we're heading because we really need to pay more attention about the impact that our advancement and technology is making on our planet, but as well on the outer space. So we need more of you. And now that I'm thinking about it, I am doing my first TEDx talk in May. And the main topic is sustainability. So I believe that might be quite interesting for me to introduce you to the organizers because I am sure that you have some very, very special messages to share with the world. Would you like that?
At some point, yes. In the next year or so, I might be a little too busy, but yeah. So I mean, I do think they're important messages because the initial reaction, right, of a listener might be, well, what do I care about messing up outer space? I live here on Earth. But I think people don't understand how deeply our current civilization depends on satellites, right? I mean, you can't find your own way home from work if your GPS goes down, and we have our Internet of Things devices communicate over satellite. We know why our friend's plane is late because of the satellite hookup that lets you go to a website that tracks it. And a lot of what we know about climate change on Earth comes from NASA satellites that are observing the Earth as a whole system. Uh, and indeed, a lot of what we know about climate originally came from studying the atmospheres of other planets. It was studying Venus that people like Carl Sagan went, well, Venus is kind of like the Earth in size, but it's really messed up. It's like hundreds of degrees, and it's really unpleasant. And why isn't the Earth like that? And we realized that oh, if we're not careful, we could make the Earth like that. And so it's because you want to study the Earth is a planet, you live on a planet. And so it's a good idea to study the different planets to understand what about the Earth is like a specific quirky thing that the Earth does and what's something that every planet does, right? And so just as if you're a doctor treating a patient, you don't want to treat only that patient. You want to know about lots of people so that you see, what's unusual about your patient. And so that's some of the ways in which space really matters to people's everyday lives. And so we don't want to mess it up.
This sounds like a very important job, and many people are not even thinking that we need to know that. So even with my tiny contribution with this podcast, sharing that and making people aware that this is something we need to be thinking about, and maybe we're not alone in is it one galaxy, many galaxies? You tell me what's your playground, and
Yeah.
I know most people are concerned about the little place or the little home where they are. Some are concerned about the city, some about their country, and some people are thinking about our planet. But your playground is so much bigger. Can you tell me how big is your playground, Jonathan?
Yeah, it's pretty big. So the old statement, right, is think globally, act locally, and so we think cosmically but act locally, and so yeah, we are on a little speck of dirt called the Earth that circles the sun, which is a star. It's the nearest star, and the Earth and the planets going around the sun are the solar system, and the solar system is one of 100 billion solar systems in our Milky Way galaxy, and our Milky Way galaxy is one of many, many billions of galaxies in the wider universe, and so we study galaxies, and the further out you look with your telescopes, you're also looking back in time, because you know that light travels at the speed of light, right? If I see you, well, we're not in the same room, but pretend we were in the same room and you were just a few feet away from me. I'm not seeing you as you are now. I'm seeing you as you were a few billionths of a second ago, because it took that long. And that is, we don't notice that because that's a very short time, right? You notice it with sound. Sound travels much slower. And so if you're in a stadium and you hear, the sound from the speakers at the far end of the stadium gets to you a little later than the sound right next to you. It's the same with light. It's just light goes so much faster. So when we see the sun, we're seeing it as it was 8 minutes ago. And so if the sun went out right now, it would still be sunny for another 8 minutes, because that light has already left the sun and is on its way to us. We're seeing the most of the stars you see in the sky as they were a few hundred years ago. And I'm looking so far out that the things that I'm looking at, the light left them before the Earth was formed, over
Oh my
5
God.
billion years ago. And here's what's amazing. When we do kind of CSI on the light from those distant galaxies, when we pull apart the light, and we can actually, there are like signatures of the matter that formed that light that was shining, that we can tell what elements are in the light and what they do. So if you take, for example, a sodium atom and shake it, it makes a particular kind of orange light. And we can do that in the lab here on Earth. And we see that exact same signature in a star in a galaxy from 5 billion years ago, 5 billion light years away, on like way on the other side of the universe. And so that's really profound, because that tells us that throughout this vast universe and this vast stretch of time that the universe has existed, the same rules apply. It's made of the same stuff. It acts the same way. There's that physics actually tells you not just how things work on Earth, but how things work everywhere through space and time. And so that robustness lets us tell the story and figure out where we came from and where we're going. We can use those tools to analyze it. So that's my playground. It's billions of light years across, and 13 billion years all the way back to the Big Bang.
Oh, wow. What a playground. It's oh my God, there's so many questions I want to ask you. But before that, I want to just share that everyone who I invite to my podcast and YouTube channel, every single person I find them fascinating. They're different from the rest. They're out of the box as a life, as a lifestyle, as interests. But what unites everyone that I invite is that I have personally met those spectacular people. And because I feel so fortunate to know very interesting people, because of my travels, because of my work, because of my interest, I would like to share how we met, if I may. We met at the end of October in Boston at an alumni event of King's College School, Wimbledon. This is the school where my son currently goes. He's in lower sixth form. And Jonathan has been a student in Wimbledon at King's College School, Wimbledon, some years ago. So this was a special
Many years
event.
ago.
Well, what, 5 years ago, something?
Yeah. I was there. I'll own up. I was there from 1971 to 1977.
Oh my God, this is amazing. This is when I was born, 1975. But
Okay.
maybe
Yeah.
studying the outer space, studying the stars and the planets and galaxies has kept you so young because yes, right now I'm in London and are you in Boston?
In Boston, yeah.
In Boston. Um, you look quite young, and I believe, what's your secret for this would link to another question. What's your secret to looking so young? And what's the secret then to happiness? Because to me, people who are happy look young. And yeah, so tell me, what
Yeah.
is it and what's happiness for you?
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, I think it is allowing myself to be enthusiastic about life. It's, there's yes, there are many scary things, but there's also wonder, and being open to that wonder and being open to playing with ideas and with discovery and always something new to learn. Um, that helps keep my youthful enthusiasm, I guess, and as well as sharing it with other people. So this helps the podcast like this. So that's one way. I'll tell you another way. I think is that I don't have kids.
Oh,
So I
kids
get
do
to
age
be.
you, and I talk from personal experience.
Yeah, exactly. So that's another reason. I think that gives you an extra 10 years. But um, yeah, so that's right. And I think it's you know to say that it's okay to be childlike.
Mhm.
Yes, there are situations where you have to be grown up and serious, and you have to be professional, you have to get it done, you have to deliver, but you can have fun along the way.
I so agree with you. And I believe, apart from me being a little bit aged by my children, and especially having two teenagers, but I also love having them, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But when people ask me for my formula of why do I look good, some people think I do look younger than I just turned 49. And I believe my answer is the same thing. It's me not having killed the inner child in me.
Yeah.
It's me being playful with life. It's me not taking myself so seriously. And as you said, life can be quite hard sometimes, but there's so many choices and chances to play and enjoy life. And this is what I hang on to. So if we touched on happiness, then what is success for you, Jonathan? I have just heard that you're quite busy. You can't even have the time to go for a TEDx talk, even if you're invited. That's fascinating. So tell me, what are you so busy with, and what is success for you?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to learn to say no to things, you see, because I'm very bad at saying no to things. But
You couldn't say no to coming to my podcast, and
well, of
thank you for
course I
that.
couldn't say no to that. Yeah, that's a whole different thing. But yeah, so because I like to connect with people. It's not about, the important famous thing. It's about who do I connect with, and who do I spend my time with. Uh, and so yeah, and it's partly because in addition to my day job as an astrophysicist, I work on this NASA Space Telescope project. And two parts of that job. One is I'm hunting for black holes, trying to discover how black holes work, trying to discover how black holes affect the galaxies they are in, like our galaxy. But I also have to support the astronomy community around the world who uses our telescope. And so I manage a team where we try and figure out what software they need to take the data from our telescope and turn it into science discoveries. And so that's a full-time job. And then on the side, I have this sort of hobby job of worrying about outer space, and I'm the custodian of the the definitive list of every satellite that's ever been launched. And so I do a lot of media around uh, the sort of statistics and trivia, and what's the furthest satellite, what's the is this the first time someone has done this, how many spacewalks have there been, those sorts of questions. When journalists need that, they come to me and my website to get the answer. And so that also keeps me busy. And then an actual life on the side of that I try and have a little bit of, and I like to explore new cities, and I like to eat, and so trying to fit all that into a day is challenging.
Yep, and I understand you. What star sign are you? Because you sound a lot like me in certain features that I love traveling, and
As
I
an
cannot do one thing.
astronomer, I don't do star
You
signs.
don't do star signs? Interesting. Okay, good, good, good. But yeah, those features and that's why we probably connected on many levels, because I cannot just do one thing. And when people tell me just focus, can you just do jewelry because you're known for it? You've been called, Queen of Diamonds, Sherlock Holmes of Diamonds. And I said, okay, now I know how to find the rarest diamonds, the rarest gems and jewelry. But what about looking for the diamonds in people?
Right.
And then I trained as a hypnotherapist, rapid transformational therapist, a coach. And yes, I do many things, and I cannot see it any other way. So doing all those things, and you still have 24 hours, can you say that you know well how to time manage, or do you time travel, Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, I've been forced to learn time management. It doesn't come naturally to me, but I have no choice. And so, yeah, I'm very heavily scheduled, and I've learned that often a lot of the problem is you're faced with these huge problems, right? And you don't know where to begin. And the skill is, what is the smallest piece of this that I can do to make some progress? And sometimes it's just finding the folder on the computer where I'm going to work, or making getting one tiny little thing done. And once you do that, you've made a little progress, and then you can make a little more and a little more. And so a lot of time management is for keeping track of what the next 5 things to do are. What are the things, which things can wait till tomorrow, and which things are going to inconvenience someone else if you don't do them today. And that's I think a lot of time management is respecting other people's time, and making sure that other people aren't waiting on you. And so that's those are, but it's very challenging.
It is, and thank you for your very valuable uh, advice on time management, because I believe most of us, if not all of us, struggle with that because there's so much more information nowadays, and there's so many more demands on us, and just figuring out what to do and not to be overwhelmed is very valuable. So hopefully our listeners and viewers could take that first small step and keep on in your mind or on your list the 5 next things you need to do. Thank you
Yeah.
so
I mean,
much for that.
like being, a doctor in an emergency room, right? They
Yeah.
triage, like which patient is dying next or something like that. And we're all our lives are like that now. You
Yeah.
know, it's insane, but that's how we live.
So success is another topic that I'm very curious asking my guests, because success could be so many things. And to me, success was me attending the Head of Charles regatta in Boston, where we met. And this is the biggest regatta in the world. And for those of you who do not know what regatta is, it's a special competition for rowers. And my son is a rower, and he was, I don't know, good enough or lucky enough, both of it, working hard enough to be there. And I claimed my proud mama moment to be there and to cheer him. And look what came out of it. I was there for him, although he didn't really care. He was like, you don't need to come, teenager. But I said, please do not take my proud mama moment. I'm going anyway. But then look at this. I got to meet amazing people like you. I got, because I was just open for the opportunities, open heart, open mind. And I don't know where life next takes me, like in this instance, to an astrophysicist, and me learning and me sharing with the world. So, what is success for you then? And have you
Yeah.
achieved it?
Sorry.
What is
How,
success and have you achieved
yeah.
it?
I feel I'm pretty happy with where I am now. I mean, this space stuff, this side job of doing the outer space stuff, I did like beavering away for 50 years, and just recently, people have been more like, oh yeah, okay, he's the guy to go to, and like I feel like I was doing it anyway, even if no one cared. But now it seems like people care, and so that feels really good. It feels really good to be useful, and that's I think success. Success is other people find you useful to have around, I think again I tend to be someone who doesn't do a lot of like very short 100 very short things in a year. I work on projects that take 20 years to come to fruition, and and uh, and so you put in a lot of unappreciated work until you have something that people can really appreciate. And so we have I feel like my day job in X-ray astronomy, it used to be, even for astronomers, X-ray astronomy, studying the X-rays from space, was very arcane. Like, ooh, those people do this weird magic. And I feel like my team has managed to make usable software and usable instructions and usable trainings so that the average astrophysicist can now do this X-ray astronomy much more easily. And we've demystified it, and that's less of a closed group. And so that democratizing that, I think, is something I'm very proud of. So those are a couple areas where I feel I've had success.
Wow, that's pretty big. And I understand what you mean. Not many people would take on a job, especially nowadays, because everyone is looking for instant gratification. So
Yeah.
for someone to take up a job that takes many years, as you say, it could be, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years before you even see fruition. And before even sometimes someone says thank you or say it's interesting, that's wow. Where do you keep the how do you keep going? Because it's so
Oh,
hard.
because it's interesting for myself, even if no one else cares. That's the thing. And that's, I think, the people who go, my success on social media as well as part of that is I don't go, okay, what are you meant to do on social media? I'm going to talk about what I care about, even if only 10 people care about it. And that's how you have your own voice, and having your own voice, your people will find you and they will appreciate.
I love what you said, having your own voice. I can so relate on a very, very tiny scale. And an example could be my podcast, because at the moment, as a beginner podcaster, I don't have a clear goal in mind. I'm just doing what I like, and I'm inviting people that are interesting to me. And maybe one day this will be a thing. And if not, then this is my playground. This is me being curious about people and sharing those amazing people that I find fascinating with the world. And this is again tiny for your scales, but it's normal, you have the billions of galaxies. And so there are two questions. I know we don't have much time because you're so busy and you have a hard stop soon, but is there something with diamonds that you could make a little comment, diamonds and what you do?
Right. Well, I mean, there's a couple of things I can say. Yeah. So you were asking me earlier about my diamond, right? And
And
I
I'll ask
think
you, yes, first tell me about diamonds in your field of work, and then
diamond. Well, there's
signature.
a couple ways that they get used. We sometimes use diamonds as optical components in our cameras because particularly there was a famous story of a probe we sent to Venus, and it was going to land on Venus where the atmospheric pressure is 90 times that on Earth. It crushes things. And so they had to make the camera lens of diamond so it wouldn't be cracked. And so they had a lot of trouble importing the diamonds from the Netherlands to Cape Canaveral and explaining to the customs officer that it was just in transit and they were re-exporting it to Venus. And also we think there are diamonds in space. I mean, diamonds are just carbon crushed under great pressure, and you can get enormous pressures in some planets. And so there may well be planets with layers of diamond on them out there, natural diamond. We haven't found any yet, but that's something that's going to be interesting to look for. And then there are some things that are harder and denser than diamonds that we have in space. One thing we study is a thing called a neutron star, where a handful of the material of this neutron star would weigh 1 trillion tons. And so it would just go right to the center of the earth through your hand. So we study insane materials that make diamonds look almost ordinary. Also, of course, diamonds are shiny, and lots of things in space are also shiny. So in some sense, our diamonds are the stars. And so remember that all the energy we get on Earth, except for nuclear reactors, comes from the sun, right? All the fossil fuel is just stored solar energy that plants sucked up millions of years ago. And we intercept a tiny, tiny fraction of the sun's output. And so the amount of energy that the sun is putting out into space, that's going out through space, we study that energy. We kind of study the energy from stars that are 1,000 times brighter than the sun. And so for me, those are diamonds in the sky.
Oh, so the answer to my question, Jonathan, show me your diamond.
Is the universe. The universe is my diamond.
Oh, I love that. You are that unique diamond. No one has come up with this answer, and I'm always fascinated. Okay, so a few things. You're associated with two big names, Harvard and Smithsonian Institute. How do you work with those very famous, very top institution in the world? And
Right.
are
Yeah. So
there
I'm
any
actually
other that you collaborate with, or you're associated with, or you work with, or for? Those are already
yeah.
two huge ones.
Right. Exactly. So Smithsonian pays my salary, and I
Okay.
actually comes from the NASA budget. So NASA pays Smithsonian to pay me, and we are the Smithsonian's astrophysics research bit, and we're on the Harvard campus, and so I get to work with Harvard students. And so that's a great thing. So it's a government lab. The Smithsonian is part of the US government. but with access to Harvard students. And so it's a good mix of best of both worlds. It's also, of course, the worst of both worlds because we have both bureaucracies. But so that can be tricky. The only thing worse than a government bureaucracy or a university bureaucracy is a government bureaucracy and a university bureaucracy fighting over you. and so
a good problem to have.
Yeah, I guess. And so it's been great working here. It's the biggest astronomy institute in the planet. And just for me, it's not so much the work I do, it's going to coffee in the morning and overhearing the conversations about the things people are working on that are going to be, in the newspapers a month from now. And so like, oh, we found this weird new planet, or there's something odd about this object. And so it's really fun to be at that, immersed in that cutting edge, that we're really finding new discoveries every day. And I'm just so inspired by my colleagues and by my students. So yeah, that's been fun.
I would not want to finish this beautiful chat because there's so many things I want to ask you, and I will just put it out there for the universe, and hopefully you will find time for another podcast sometime soon, because I want to ask you, is there an end to where we are? What about time? I mean, there's so many questions I have, and actually I may even ask a guest to ask questions for the next podcast. But now, before we finish, I would love you to share, where do people find you if they are fascinated by what you do, and just to find more about your work?
If you Google Jonathan and space, you'll find me. I'm on planet4589.org on the web. I'm Planet4589 on Twitter and Blue Sky. And so I have a pretty large digital footprint. So if you just Google Jonathan Space Report or Jonathan in Space, you'll track me down.
Amazing. And what would be your word of wisdom as goodbye for someone who is maybe going through a hard time and thinking life is hard, I can't make it, some people are so fortunate, some people are so smart, and I'm not. If someone is feeling in that space, how could you encourage them to keep going?
Well, I keep thinking about, we get a lot of, you go, ooh, astrophysicist, that's fancy, whatever. But I am continually awed by the complexity of our society, where we depend on, every little job that seems like so unimportant actually is crucial in making all the pieces work together, from the sanitation workers to the, all the infrastructure people. It's like everything, even, sort of even tax advisors and whatever, is like, without them, right, we would be living in like this medieval kind of situation that people take our society for granted much too easily. And in fact, it's an amazing achievement of humanity, and it needs everyone's contribution, even if it isn't recognized as much as it should be. So I guess that's how to think positive.
Okay, amazing. Yes, the people who make our coffee, so you could hear about those amazing news. So as you say, okay, so value yourself, because no matter if you think you're small, you're not, you're very important to society. Your job matters, you matter, right?
That's right. Everyone has something to contribute. And it's, some of us get the opportunity to work on a global stage, some of us don't. But what really matters is whether the people around you had their lives enriched by having you in their lives. And that's the thing that matters most.
And what a beautiful ending to our first podcast episode together. I hope many to come, and I hope you do share when you find those diamonds in the outer space. Please let me be one of the first to know, after everyone else who needs to know. Thank you so much. And I'm grateful for your time and you sharing those amazing diamonds of wisdom.
Nice to chat with you. Bye bye
Thank
now.
you, Jonathan. All the best. Bye bye.